Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Hello.
Hello.
Great to be with you on this Tuesday.
It's a very nice Tuesday, Steve. Lots going on in the sports world. A lot happened last night. A lot is happening tonight as well. What, not enthused?
Well, no, not a question, not enthused. The Rangers are in. If the Phillies win, there'll be so much offense in that series that Bruce Bochy and Rob Thompson will be on the field more than the DHs.
Oh, boy.
Because they'll be walking to the mound left and right. You notice what Bochy did last night after Scherzer was done. He brought Jordan Montgomery in. Mm-hmm. That is the pattern for tonight. I would think that based on the fact that he pitched Sunday night, that Zach Wheeler would be available for an inning tonight for the Phillies.
He'll do the Madison Bumgarner treatment, come in for a few innings, wrap the game up.
Not a few innings. I mean, I think he would be available for an inning or two as a bridge, if need be. Nola, no, because Nola pitched last night. See, he's the one guy that is out of tonight's game. He is not going to pitch tonight.
Yeah.
But everybody else is fair game. Same story with Arizona. If Zach Gallen needs to pitch, he can pitch tonight. I mean, and you'll go from there. I mean, you may see between the two teams tonight,
a lot.
You could see as many as a dozen pitchers in the game tonight. I think there's a good chance of that.
That whole 3-batter rule is kind of out the window for this one because if there's enough offense, they'll just keep on throwing pitchers out there until something works, something bites.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. But I don't know about you. I enjoyed last night. I enjoyed watching the Rangers put up over 10 runs against the Astros. It brought me a lot of joy seeing Adolis Garcia.
Why? Because the Astros at one point were sign stealing?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, sign stealing. What a weird concept. Who does that, Steve? No one we could think of does that.
I'm going to get to that in a moment. Okay. So let me broach something about the fourth down call in the Penn State Ohio State game.
Let's hear it.
Every call brings it with it reward with success, risk with decision. Okay, so there's risk reward. Penn State, for the most part this season, has had reward out of its fourth down. But then there's what can go wrong. Well, we saw what went wrong. They didn't make it, which then gave Ohio State a shorter field. I think most people were expecting that Penn State would punt the ball, put it on their defense, and then go from there. That is a fair call. No? Anybody who thinks that, they're probably thinking it beforehand. It's most people are probably not a 20/20 hindsight thing, right? Okay. But anybody who thinks that, I can understand exactly what you're talking about. Time remaining in the game, and defense has been playing really well. Pin them deep, get them to punt, get the ball back, short field, score. Absolutely plausible. Okay. But every play brings with it risk. I mean, every decision brings with it risk. So you have to factor in the risk. So what is the risk? Well, okay, now here's the reward. You pin them deep with a punter, by the way, who doesn't have a touchback this season. Riley Thompson does not have a touchback. Right. The next part is you get a 3 and out. Okay. Or better yet, you get a turnover. Right. Now here's the risk. What happens if you give up 2 first downs?
Yep.
Not out of the realm of possibility. What happens if you give up 2 first downs? Like, no decision is an absolute and it's perfect. It has to be then carried out, whether it's the fourth down play or how is that executed after that. And what if they get 2 first downs? Then they get the ball to, pick a spot between the 40 and the 50 or 35 to 50, somewhere there, and they punt. Well, now suddenly you're sitting there back maybe in the 15 to 25 range, and there's 2 minutes left.
And having to go 80 yards.
Right, and not 7. So I'm saying not every decision, that's absolutely you should have done that. Right? Doesn't mean there's not risk. Because if you notice, when they took over, they actually got a couple of first downs and got a touchdown out of it. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that even by making that decision, it works out. It could work out great. You get the 3 and out, you get a takeaway, something. It could work out beautifully.
But
you don't know. Like I go back. Let's go back. Let's take a famous instance of this: Orange Bowl, 2005. Penn State, Florida State. Florida State's backed up at its own 1 yard line. Can't get out. Timeout. Can't get out. Timeout. Can't get out. Joe had all 3 timeouts left. Boom, 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 boom. They punt. Penn State took over at about the 40-yard line or so. They like the Florida State 40-yard line. Right, with not a lot of time left. They had really time for 2 plays, maybe 3. Right, 3 plays because they got to get a field goal. They run it out to Jordan Norwood in the sideline, catch, first down, and gets out of bounds, stops the clock, throws the ball in the end zone. Ethan Kilmer makes one of the great acrobatic catches of all time. Penn State gets a touchdown and goes to the locker room like, oh my, right. So that's where it works perfectly. Okay. All right. Penn State, Indiana. Let's see, first year Penn State's in the conference. They come here as 93. They punt it. Indiana's on the 1 yard line. He threw a 99-yard touchdown pass. I think it was Lewis that caught it. He ended up being a first-round pick of the Giants, bombed out. Right. Because of that play, I think he was a first-round pick.
The play vaulted him 6 rounds.
But he went 99. So you know what I mean? You don't know.
Everything is 50-50.
And I understand exactly the thought process of anybody who says you should punt. Completely get it. You're justified in thinking that, right? At the same time, there's risk reward and going for it, saying, "Hey, look, this is our shot. We got to do something here." Right? Kind of like we're getting to the line of the sand point of the game. Yeah, there's still 7.5 minutes left, which brings the punt part back into it, and the way the defense has been playing. Yeah, but it's but because we know the result of it,
Can I get on my soapbox for a second before we discuss signs? Hindsight is 20/20, as we've now said. That's the very big thing here. Hindsight's 20/20. You never know until afterwards if it was the right decision or the wrong decision. And it could have been different or it could have been the same outcome.
And again, I think a lot of people were saying they should have punted. Were probably saying it at the time, and it's not hindsight. Okay.
But for a lot of the thought, it's hindsight's 20/20. And there's a problem I have with statistics now, where they're getting used to be like, statistically, this is the best thing to do. And I get that. But then afterwards, they're like, well, how dare you go with the numbers here? You should have gone with your gut. He went with his judgment, which his hindsight was 20/20. He said, I'm going to go for it on 4th down. Or in other coaches' cases, I'm going to go against it and not go for it.
Right.
They chose one path, the other path. Right. Both paths could not work. Both paths could work. Right. Hindsight's 20/20. People saying it's black and white are wrong. Right. Everything is gray.
Right. It's not black and white, but anybody, I'm guessing the vast majority of people who said they should have punted were probably saying that before the play was run, okay? And I'm trying to be fair to them because I think that's probably what they thought. And they're like, and then it didn't work, which then reinforced their thought they should punt. At the same time, what if it worked? I mean, it wasn't 4th down and 30. It was 4th and 4. Like, okay, well, you don't believe me. They work on these plays all the time. It didn't work. Well, it doesn't mean the other scenario would have absolutely worked either. It could have.
Chance.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why you roll the dice. So I just thought I'd reiterate that one more time, that every decision brings with it a reward and also brings with it a risk. Punting the ball still brought with it the potential for great rewards and brought with it the potential for risks.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's always an interesting chat to have.
No. I think it's again, anybody who brings it up,
it's fair.
It's fair game. Of course, it's fair game. Oh.
But there are some things that are not fair game, Steve.
So let's talk about sign stealing.
I mean, one sign stealing team lost yesterday, the Astros.
Yeah.
But of course, one has not yet lost this season in Michigan.
Yes. Right. I would be shocked if this is confined to one person.
And why would that be, Steve?
Just shocked. You can play the game all you want of some rogue staffer all you want. Well, how did all the information get to everybody there? From the rogue staffer.
What, there was just a dossier just appeared on their desks one day and they were like, whoa, look at that. It's so random. We don't know where this came from.
So let's tell you what you can do. You can, during the course of the game, look over at the other sideline and you can steal all the signs you want. If you can figure out the sequencing and who's the dummy and who's live and things like that. You can do it. That's legal. You can look at a TV tape or an all-22 tape. If you can see the signs, you can do that. I can tell you that on the all-22, right, they just show you the field. End zone cut, and they show you, like, right before the snap. End zone cut, sideline cut, right before the snap. Like, you'll see motions and things like that. But that means at that point the play's already in because you notice that, like, they may shift or something like that, but then look to the sideline. But then when they actually start to run the play, there's motions. You're trying to see if it's man, if it's zone, if, you're trying to maybe free somebody up, get somebody a head start, something. Okay? But the all-22 tape, you don't see signs because they're trying to make sure you don't see it. Whether it's the end zone shot or whether it's the sideline shot. You get two shots on the all-22. You can't see it. It's hard to. You may inadvertently see something, but geez, on every play, no. And same thing with TV. You may inadvertently see it on the TV because they have a wider view of what's going on, so you might be able to see it. You're allowed to do that. You are not allowed to do this, where you send somebody, because they stopped all in-stadium scouting years ago. Years ago.
Yeah.
Okay? All in stadium, in arenas, in football stadiums, years ago. I think it was 94 they stopped it. So, Pete Thamel, who's done a great job of this, along with Mark Schleybaugh, but Pete especially. And I'm not surprised.
Pete's amazing.
Yeah, Pete's a good guy. I like Pete. I've never met Schleybaugh. Pete I have. So...
There's a lot here. There's a lot here as the problem is.
So there's both the alleged sign stealing operation includes both video evidence of electronics prohibited by the NCAA to steal signs and a significant paper trail.
Evidence.
It says that, what's this guy's name again?
Connor Stallions.
Connor Stallions. Forwarded the tickets he bought to at least 3 different people in different areas of the country. Okay.
Which hints at the breadth of the operation.
Right.
Wow, this wasn't just one rogue person, Steve. Look at that.
Well, to let you know, he knows it's wrong. Like the addresses. Okay. Which we'll get to that in a second. Stallions purchased the tickets. An opposing Big Ten school looked up in-stadium surveillance video from a game earlier this year, and sources said the person in the seat of the ticket purchased by Stallions held his smartphone up and appeared to film the home team sideline the entire game. Okay. Ohio State. I told you before the show, at 8:30 in the morning before the game, before we went over, Jack and I found out that, because this had come up as a topic, we found out that Stallions allegedly had purchased a ticket on the 45-yard line of each sideline.
Mm-hmm. And per Thamel sources and Schleybaugh sources, the tickets purchased were not used for the game.
Well, no, because they got flagged.
They got flagged.
Right. Okay. I'm going to throw this out there. It is alleged that would have been, had he been allowed in, or whomever was going to do it, would have been the third time they've seen Penn State this year. Okay? It's alleged that it would have been the third time they've seen Penn State this year.
And
how many times they've seen Ohio State, I don't know.
And hypothetically, of course, they're playing Penn State on the 11th, so one would assume they've got 2 more games in there. They might try and catch one more glimpse at least, either Indiana or Maryland, before they face the Nittany Lions.
None of the tickets that the 11 schools told ESPN about, 11, okay, involved Michigan as an opponent per sources. The games involved either one or both of the teams that the Wolverines were playing later that season, according to sources. Shocking. Okay.
I know.
Over here in the back, explain to me why you need UNLV signals.
Because UNLV could beat them, Steve. You never know.
I mean, in all seriousness, do you really, here's your talent, here's theirs. I think you got a shot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just a little bit.
But he's obviously the center of this.
But
if you're going to sit there and be naive and think he's just a one-man rogue operation who's so intelligent, cut me a break. Hey, you've got to be able to take video, match up plays, match up sequences, see if you're doing different games, how different they are, what they do, they change up, blah, blah, the whole thing. Everybody just thinks, hey, you just come out and it's a whole new stuff. Do you know how much it takes to change it? You do change it. That's why you've got 3 people there.
Of course.
Right? So you can change up who's doing what, where, why, and you can make subtle changes what you're going. But anybody who sits there and thinks, oh, it's just easy to do. It's easy to do. Really? Okay. How's everything going in the basement? Okay, good. Just want to know. Just was kind of wondering.
It is going to only get bigger and bigger, this story. That we, of course, this broke, I believe, Thursday of last week is when it kind of came on out that this is happening and this is kind of being investigated. It's only going to grow in terms of who else is involved in it, because as you just said, Jim Harbaugh and the crew were sitting there and all of a sudden got envelope under their door 11 times, and we're like, whoa, where did these come from? That's so strange, Steve. I have no idea where this possibly could have come from. I guess it's got all the signs of every team we're about to play. That's so odd.
Well, he was standing on the sideline too. Right, so that was the other. They had pictures of him on the sideline.
And who bought the tickets? And who bought
it indicated that he bought the tickets, and what he did was he picked spots in the stadium. And it's alleged that he used StubHub or Ticketmaster or whatever it happened to be to purchase the tickets. StubHub, SeatGeek. That was another one that was mentioned. The ticket purchases fall into a seat location pattern somewhere around the 45-yard line and raised up enough for a clear view of the opposite sideline. In other words, hey, we're not going to get a seat in the 45-yard line and sit in the third row. You got a lot of backsides and helmets in front of you.
Yeah.
One source said Stallions bought some tickets across on the home sideline in order to scout the home team, which Michigan played that season, but the source added that there have been tickets purchased on the other side of the stadium facing the sideline of the opponent, including one purchase across from the visiting sideline in the weeks before Michigan played Ohio State. See, this is coordinated. It is elaborate. It lasts it says it lasts as much as 3 seasons, so it would be 21, 22, and 23. And they keep talking about him. He may be the person of interest, but if you think he's the lone wolf in this on that staff, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You have to be the head of the local chapter of naive to think that. Now, as for those who laugh it off, and I've seen some commentators nationally kind of like, oh, well, yeah, everybody steals signs, ha, 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 ha. Over here in the back, you are allowed during the game, you see something, you see a pattern coming up, that's fair game. You're sitting right there. It is the game you're playing. No issue. Okay? If you can somehow in an all-22 or a TV tape come up with some of them, because there's not a camera that's focused on the sideline, right? You get an all-22 end zone sideline, and you get a TV copy. TV copy you make yourself. I mean, but the all-22 is put on a service. Okay, if somebody is sloppy about it, you can do that. That is perfectly legal. So there's nothing wrong with any of that. This, okay, I'm sorry, right? And then you have to take it. It's not a question of, okay, here are the signs. They're not like videoing the game and the signs. They're videoing the signs, and then they're going back and they're matching it up with the video. Where'd the video come from? Where is the video coming from? He's got all the video in his house?
Of course.
Right?
Probably not.
Or is the video in the building?
Wild. Crazy statements.
Yeah. Is the video involve the staff? I'm not talking about the coordinators or anything like that. I'm talking about the video staff and so forth, right? And then, are there meetings?
How is it implemented?
Right? How do you use it? Do you practice it during the course of the week and have people on the sideline practice sending in the signals, and then they have a way to relay to the defense. Let's just take it from an offensive point of view. Relay to the defense, hey, here it comes. This is what it is. With their own set of signs. I mean, this is to sit there and think it is a rogue staffer. Then you are just, in fact, you are the Toastmaster of the naive club.
To give, I guess, some context for what could happen, there's not been a lot of these cases that we've seen in the wider scope that have been as big as this. I mean, when you're looking at the idea of sign stealing, you've got the Astros and Spygate are the two that I think of immediately, because Spygate football relation makes sense. And for the Astros, as you said, if you catch signals and you catch things, you're like, this is happening, like a pitcher tipping pitches.
There's nothing wrong with that. You're down there in the game. Right? It's their fault.
You notice a trend, you notice their cadence, you notice something, that's fair game for you to get.
It's their fault at that point. But it's the ability to do this. People, they got to change up. Well, that's why you don't just go to one game. Yeah. You may go to one UNLV game, but gee, you'd like to go to maybe 3 or 4 Penn State games, and then, gee, it's really ironic. They bought a ticket on each side of the Ohio State and Penn State game. It is alleged. Really? Really? I'm taken aback.
And part of the issue here isn't just that they're knowing the plays. It's that this puts a lot of safety. It throws the safety out the window for a lot of players, because there may be a play that comes up where the player thinks he's going to have a lot of time because it's a ridiculous thing they have not run before, or it's something that's so out of left field. That they're like, I'm going to have myself a second or two to catch the ball and do something. But if Michigan knows what's coming, if one of their DBs knows exactly what play is coming and they break the line of scrimmage early and the receiver is not expecting it, there is a problem waiting. There is an injury that's going to come from this. That it puts a lot of players' health at risk, because all of a sudden Michigan knows what's coming, but Penn State doesn't know Michigan knows what's coming.
Right. This does not take away from the fact that Michigan's a really talented team. Not in any way, shape, or form. But you're looking for an advantage, and especially in games where the talent is comparable. right? You can talk about Michigan's great, this, that, and they look, and Harbaugh's like, oh, this is just another distraction. We don't play anybody. We don't. Okay, well, look, Jim, you haven't actually played anybody. Okay, over here in the back, you really haven't yet. Right, so that's a fact. Your players can't have no control over that. They just play who's in front of them, and they're blowing everybody out. So, look, and we already know you have a terrific team. But, boy, oh, boy, it sure is ironic that in the 2 college football playoff games that they have played where they would have the least amount of video available, they got blown out. TCU blew them out. Exactly how many TCU games? I don't doubt they went to any TCU game.
Probably none.
No. Right? And they blew them out. Really? Georgia. Well, Georgia's had more talent.
Georgia, yeah.
Right?
But still, it was
blew 'em
demolition
out.
derby.
But blew them out. I mean, how much Georgia tape you got? How many Georgia games you attend between the hedges? I don't think so. Right? I think that's sort of ironic, don't you?
Odd.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's weird. It's funky. Who would have thought that, Steve?
And this is, and it's just every year there's something with them that it seems to come up, and they kind of brush it off and brush it off and brush it off. You sit there and go, okay, well, over here, like where there's smoke, there's fire. Right now, it's raging.
They're trying to bring us down, Steve. They're trying to say we can never win fairly.
Yeah.
Well, you're the ones causing us to think this. People aren't saying this about Ohio State. They're winning games, and we're not saying Ohio State's winning unfairly. We're not saying that Alabama has been great for years and they're doing anything unfair, because there's nothing there. The issue is all of these things are you.
Yeah.
You're causing us to say these things. We're not saying these things about Georgia because Georgia's a good football team and they just win games because they're good.
I just now it may have been his idea. I'm not saying it's I'm not, but anybody who thinks that, especially years of this, that this is some sort of rogue operation, like, well, it's not a rogue operation. He's on the staff. He has access to the building. He has access to all the video. And by the way, he's not really a coach. Like, breaking down tape is not his bag.
He's literally labeled a staffer. That is what he's labeled as currently.
Well,
not just like not a coach, not a nothing. He's a staffer. But that's not someone who you'd put in the realm of coordinator or whatever.
No.
He's just a dude who is doing things, getting video.
I'm sure he has total access to the. But I can't imagine that this is the guy breaking down, right, without help. Come on, this could involve between 10 and 20 people.
That's probably on the low end, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to be conservative about it. But for anybody who laughs it off like, ha ha, hardy har har. Hey, hardy har har, I'm sorry, there's a rule against this for a reason. All right? Again, you are allowed to look at any video, and if you can see it, because as somebody who's seen a lot of all 22s, and obviously TV tapes, sorry, no offense, it's hard to see. I mean, Georgia puts up a bed sheet on that side. That's why you get the tickets on the other side. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But that way on TV, you don't see it. Or TV's actually the best shot of seeing it. All 22 is very difficult. It's tight to the field, and they don't start until a few seconds before the play starts. That's legal. Doing it during the game, legal. Doing what's alleged here,
Illegal.
right? Can't do it. That's cheating. Right? That's cheating. Pure and simple. And I realized that in 20 they went through COVID, the whole thing. 21 was not, it was they had to fight their way through some things, but they did get to the playoff in 21. Finally beat Ohio State. 22 beat Ohio State again. Won convincingly in both games. But I'm sorry. This is something that is. I mean, you're always looking for an advantage. Well, that's why rules are put in place, so you don't break the rules and get an advantage you shouldn't have, especially if the other people on your schedule are playing by the rules. Right? And anybody who it's only what? And don't tell me it's one guy. You tell me it's one guy, I'm immediately going to look at you and go, really? Do you have any idea how this works?
It's called being naive.
Yeah. This isn't one guy. Where do you think the defensive coordinator looks over and goes, hey, what's his name again?
Connor Stallions.
Connor. Really? Great one. Good. I didn't notice that. Right during the game. Really? How about that?
Yeah.
God, I never knew. Gee, I'm not going to ask you how you found out. I know it's been 2 years, but I'm not going to ask you.
It's sitting there. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And I think, the bare minimum, Jim Harbaugh is probably not going to. He's already going to be suspended for some games next season. But if one were predicting, I don't think he coaches in the NCAA next year.
Well,
there's been the rumors of the NFL.
Yeah.
With this all coming down at the same time.
Okay. You can build in all the plausible deniability you want. Okay. And there's usually in something like this, there would be, quote, plausible deniability. But that's not how the NCAA looks at it. To them, if you're the head coach, plausible deniability has been tossed out the door.
You should know everything going on in your building at all times.
And that's what they've done with certain coaches that have been suspended with cause that may or may not have had anything to do with it, but because they're the head coach, they're the ones that get suspended. I think Jim Calhoun was at one point. Bruce Pearl, though, was allegedly directly involved.
But even in the pros, NFL.
Bill Self. But it's always the head. They feel like you're the leader of the team. You didn't have control over what was going on the chain below you. Thus, you're ultimately one of those responsible because you didn't have control over what was going on in your own building.
As a Saints fan,
that's
Bountygate.
Right?
Bountygate happened. It was all stated that it was the defensive coordinator, but then it was like, well, no, Sean Payton should know what's happening. So he got suspended for a season.
And Mickey Loomis, the general manager,
was also suspended because he was a half the year.
Season,
yeah. But it was like, there's no way they didn't know what Greg Williams was doing. And that's fair. They should have probably figured out at some point. Right. So, of course.
Is it fair that he didn't know? It's fair. You can make an argument he didn't know, but as the head coach,
you have to know. It's your job to know.
It's like how do we know? How's this going again? Right. And here's the other part, especially within the building. People talk. I'm going to guess. I couldn't tell you anything about this guy. Morgan's his first name. I keep missing his first name. So I know nothing about this guy. But he's obviously allowed in the building. And you don't think as this stuff is going on, did they not patting themselves in the back that they did this? Hey, great job, Morgan. Right? And Morgan's like going, hey, we got him on that one. Yeah, you don't think that's not happening? You think he's just cloistered in a room, right? Every single week, never talks to anybody, doesn't do anything, right? Doesn't take credit for anything, just kind of looks around and goes, okay, I did my job, it's good. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Okay, I've got all the Rutgers signs. Right? We don't need the Iowa signs, we're good. You don't think within the building that somebody's not yapping about it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, like I said, I don't know him, but you don't think over 2 years he never said anything? Or anybody said anything to him? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. And again, Michigan is a really talented team. They have a good coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's looking at this going, what the heck? Now, is it going to affect their ranking? And like this story about whether Michigan State would play them or not. Let's see now. I have a sellout. That means all the tickets are sold. That's a lot of money. We're going to sell a lot of beverages. You don't think they actually sat down and went, I don't think we're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. I mean, I saw that. Jack Ham and I saw that story. Like, really? Yeah, sure.
That was one of those things you say as a kid is like, I'm not going to eat then, Mom. Right. And then you smell dinner and you're like, it smells good. Kind of want dinner.
The Big Ten did talk to them about it. They have to, right? But I have a sold-out stadium. I've got a lot of parking that people are paying for. I'd have to refund money. I'm like, we're well played. Yeah. We'll give it a shot. Mm-hmm. We'll change our signs. Okay, bunt. Yeah. We're gonna bunt. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's big. It's growing, and it's not going to get much better. I do want to ask you about something, though. There are two things I'd like to ask about.
I'm not resigning.
Okay. Well, number one is
so that takes
care of that first question. Second question, the 49ers, they got Kirk Cousined last night.
Yeah. Not only that, in a game where Jordan Addison, they didn't have Jefferson, and Jordan Addison had to miss part of it with leg cramps.
And so T.J. Hawkinson also had to miss part of the game.
Yeah, because he got rolled up in the back of his foot. Okay, so let's start with this. Brock Purdy is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
They had 3 turnovers through the first 6 games. They had 3 last night.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time you've watched him now in the year slightly plus that he's been the starting quarterback, where you don't feel like he's seeing the field. The key I'm looking at when I watch the 49ers, I watched obviously a lot of the game last night. And I actually watched a lot of the Browns game last week because it was the game that was on here.
Mm-hmm.
2 things came up to me. 1, opposing teams are getting a lot of pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
2, the 49ers aren't getting pressure. The 49ers kept showing blitz last night and over again rushed 4. And Cousins had time. Now, again, everybody's playing cover 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is I don't want anybody to get behind me. That's why people have asked about, and Penn State can't stretch the field. I'm sitting there like going, excuse me, are you watching other games?
Mm-hmm.
Who's stretching the field? Who? Like, usually when a ball is completed deep, like in the NFL or college, the coverage is right there with them, right? It just is a great throw, good catch.
Faster receiver, whatever it is.
But I'm saying, it's not like there's tremendous separation because they've got safeties rolling, things like that. The only way, every once in a while you'll blow a coverage.
Yeah, you'll see the dude who just wide open, got 20 yards of space, and you're like, well, how'd that happen? It's because someone messed up.
But all these coverages that we're seeing now are all designed to keep the ball in front.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So last night, Cousins did a great job with Addison. Now, Addison broke a long play, but it was a pitch catch, and he broke a tackle. And that's how he got the long play. I don't know, he ran 50 yards after that or something like that. They did a great job of finding holes underneath. Addison did a good job. The guy they picked up from the Rams did a good job. Number 4, whomever that was. And because they didn't have Jefferson. When Hawkinson was out there, they found him, and Cousins was accurate. And Bosa and those guys did not get close to him. Mm-hmm. They kept rushing 4, dropping 7, rushing 4, dropping 7. And that, if you can rush 4 and get to the quarterback, you're golden. But if you're rushing 4 and not getting to the quarterback, and he can then pick out a guy or two in a hole, and Cousins was accurate last night.
The player you're thinking of is Brandon Powell, was number 4.
Brandon Powell, number 4.
64 yards, 4 catches, pretty good game for him.
Yeah. And again, everything underneath or by the sideline, something there. And they did a good job of finding those holes, and they kept converting on third down. Their third down number was outstanding last night. And third down would be the one where you're trying to turn your 4 guys loose and drop 7. And the 49ers couldn't get to them. The 49ers have lost their last 2 games because they have lost the trenches.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdy's been pressured. They're not running the balls effectively. On the other side, they're not getting pressure with their 4.
And that's crazy because they have a real good D-line. Like, they have one of the best defensive line units you've got. You've got Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Clellan Ferrell, Randy Gregory, Javon Kinlaw, Drake Jackson. Like, that's a ridiculous unit.
And Kevin Givens.
That is a real strong unit of 8 guys that should get to the passer pretty easily. And, I mean, Bosa shows it week in, week out. He's that dude.
Yeah, but he wasn't that dude against Cleveland. He was not that dude last night. I mean, the last 2 weeks, he's been controlled. And it's not like he's been controlled with help. See, that's what got me about Minnesota last night. I'm watching the game. They're not chipping with a tight end. They're not leaving a running back in. They did it with 5 guys. And with San Francisco, in watching them the last 2 weeks, you can go with 5 guys because they don't blitz a lot. There's no D'Amico Ryans anymore. And they've been relying more often than not on a 4-man rush. Well, they're not getting there. They didn't hurry up P.J. Walker. They didn't hurry up Kirk Cousins. And Cousins, it's not like he stood back there all night. I mean, he had some pressure and closed it up. But for the most part, he played pitch and catch last night. And he was accurate as heck. Brock Purdy couldn't play pitch and catch. He had to move, and when he's moving, he's not as effective. Even at the end where they had a real shot, he threw the ball over the middle.
He missed him. Straight up missed him.
Plain missed him on a play that he actually could set his feet and throw it, and he missed him. And he got picked off, and Bynum had his second interception of the game. There was a play they ran in the third quarter where he had Jennings and Kittle standing within 3 feet of each other over the middle. Now, he overthrew both of them, but I'm thinking, what are the 2 of them standing there for? I mean, I understand if you're trying to run a rub or something like that, but they were just both there, and there was nobody around. Because it was 3rd and a long, so Minnesota had dropped back. But they had 2 guys standing in the same spot. That made no sense. So right now, Kansas City and Philadelphia, the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl, are the 2 6-1 teams. For Philadelphia, that was a big win on Sunday night because that's the first time this season they've beaten a team with a winning record. People don't realize that. They had no wins until Miami on Sunday night against teams with a winning record.
Yeah. There is some weird notes with that team.
Then there's Detroit.
Yeah. And Detroit's playing lights out, but they get, I guess, curb stomped as being nice.
and allow me to be fair about Lamar Jackson. I was critical of Lamar Jackson in the Pittsburgh game. Right? The interception Joey Porter Jr. got in the end zone was just a bad play by Lamar Jackson, and I didn't understand why in certain spots that Jackson was not running the ball with his great skill to change. And I said that. I said, I know you're not supposed to criticize Lamar Jackson. I said, but he's a quarterback, and guess what? Right? He did not play well. Well, not Sunday. Sunday, he was brilliant. He threw the 4 touchdown passes. He was accurate. He had Detroit on its heels all over the place. Oh, and when he decided to run, it was like easy pickings for him because he played a brilliant game that only Lamar Jackson in his style can play.
And that is the first time all season we've seen the Lions really get punked, where they just got beaten down like the Lions of old.
They could not handle anything he did. Lamar Jackson played an MVP type of game. So, again, if I'm going to be critical of him against Pittsburgh, I want to make sure everybody knows that when he puts together a brilliant game, I'll be the first person to tell everybody he played a brilliant game, because that's the only fair way to do commentary.
And you know who else played a brilliant game this past Sunday? Mac Jones.
Mac Jones played very well
The
against
Bills are 4-3.
Yeah.
They've lost some tough games.
They've also lost
season.
players. Like not having Matt Milano has really hurt. Not having Tre'Davious White has really hurt. Obviously, DeMar Hamlin, you can't, there's been a period of time where Dalton Kincaid, he played Sunday, but there's been a time where Dalton Kincaid's been out. But everything is falling on the shoulders of Josh Allen. They don't run the ball well. When the Bills were getting to AFC title games, they were running the ball at least enough to keep everybody off balance. They don't run the ball well.
James Cook isn't great.
No.
Which stings because he's my fantasy running back, but whatever.
That is your problem.
Yeah. But hey, Jahmyr Gibbs got his first touchdown. That was a nice positive thing for me.
With Detroit. You know what? He was first round pick. I was like, when he was picked, I was like, I don't get what they're doing here. But you know what? He and Montgomery are a nice balance together in the Detroit backfield. And no, I will not be at the Thanksgiving game. Okay? In fact, I'll be in Orlando doing a game opposite that game. Then I'm flying up.
Yeah.
Penn State football won't be at the game because they'll be flying to whether it's Detroit or Ypsilanti. I'm not sure. I'm going to guess Detroit. Right, while the game's being played. So, no, they're not going to the game either. So if you're wondering if they're going to go or I'm going to go, no. Okay, okay. When that game's being played, I'm going to be doing basketball, and then boom, let's go to the airport. Uber.
But it was an interesting Sunday of games, and there's one more question I have for you we have not gotten to yet.
Yes.
A certain sport returns tonight to action. Do you know what sport that might be?
Certain sport return to the NBA.
The NBA. The NBA returns tonight. NBA games are back. The past few days have been deal galore because all of the 2020, I believe, draft class could sign their rookie extensions. So some players got big money. Jaden McDaniels, 5 years, 136, stuff like that. Giannis got a 3-year, $186 million deal, which he said he wasn't going to sign. Then he did because Damian Lillard's now on his team. But deals like that coming out left, right, and center. And I want to ask you, going into this season, is there anything in particular you're watching? Because, of course, there are a lot of interesting stories going on this year, not just player-wise, but like rule-wise and team-wise and all this stuff.
All right, so NBA. Let's start local. It's going to be fun. I talked to Derek's mom on Thursday night, Kathy Drysdale. Derek Lively playing with the Mavericks.
He could start. He might be their starting center this season.
Absolutely.
There's a chance of it.
He's a terrific athlete, player, and working with Luka Doncic is going to be great. And Kathy says so far, Kyrie Irving has been terrific, right? And I said, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one, because Derek's from Bellefonte. Okay. Two, obviously, we'll take a look at the Nuggets, Jokic, Murray, that whole crew. But now they have Jalen Pickett,
who also could play a role this season.
Oh, he is going to play a role.
He's going to play a backup guard role. Right. That's big.
He is going to play a role. They really like him. I'll watch the Atlanta Hawks because Seth Lundy's there, and then we'll see what the Nuggets want to do with Andrew Funk. Okay, but Seth Lundy's with the Hawks, so let's
start with our local base.
So start with the local base that interests me a lot, and Lamar Stevens is with the Celtics.
He's gonna have a fun year.
Well, the Celtics are really good. They're really good. They made the big move of Brogdon getting out of there and Drew Holiday coming in. I think that really changes the shape of that team, especially with Porzingis, who is a more inside-out player now that they can add that gives them a different dimension that they did not have before. They had a lot of the same type of player before. Now with Holiday and Porzingis, they don't have a lot of the same type of player. And I think that's what makes the Celtics interesting.
They have a real interesting decision to make this season based on how they want to line up, because there's this whole discussion of, is Al Horford going to start or whatever, because he's the vet who's always started, and they got rid of Robert Williams because they had too many bigs, and it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But they could end games with two of the all-NBA defensive guards in Drew Holiday and Derek White. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can defend their keisters off.
Yep.
And Porzingis also can defend his keister off.
Right.
You've got 5 really good defensive players and 5 pretty darn good offensive players at all times. All of them can shoot threes. All of them can create their own shot.
Yep.
That, assuming that is the end game lineup they have in most games,
Right.
I don't see how many teams can beat that. Like, even if you're the Bucks, because currently both teams are tied for the odds to win the title this year.
I mean, Giannis, Major League. Lillard, Major League. And as you know, I'm a big Chris Middleton guy. They've got good role players like Connaughton. They can shoot.
Brook Lopez.
Okay, Brook Lopez. Good. I mean, so Milwaukee has a lot going for it. People will ask, the Knicks are better.
Yes.
I mean, the Knicks are better. I mean, the Knicks will be a factor, and they can go toe-to-toe with most teams on a given night.
Gosh darn right we are.
The Sixers are not.
Well, there's the dumpster fire.
Maxey is a really good player, but not a great player. I know Sixer fans think he's a great player. No.
He might take the leap this year, but it comes down to not Maxey if he does the leap or not.
Look, he's a really good player. He's not a great player. It doesn't mean he can't have great nights, but he'll also have some nights where you look, okay. Embiid is a great regular season player. He is an okay playoff player. When the competition on night in and night out is comparable, he struggles. My apologies to Sixer fans, but
how dare you?
Facts are facts. The Lakers are interesting because of Davis and LeBron. The Clippers are going to be interesting because of Kawhi Leonard. How much will he play? Won't he play? Where Harden ends up will be interesting. If he ends up in Houston, then he'll be in the witness protection program. I think the league is more balanced now than it's ever been, which makes it more fun, gives more teams opportunities. I mean, let's look at a team last year that took advantage of an opportunity. Actually, it was fun to watch, Sacramento. Normally, Sacramento was like the last outpost.
Yeah.
Is he still in the NBA? He's at Sacramento. Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that. But then you watch Sacramento play last year. They're a fun team to watch. Now can they take fun and go further? I don't know if they can. But it's still a good team.
Yeah.
Right. Portland's going to struggle, after all the trades. There's no question. Houston's not very good.
Do you know who intrigues me the most?
Minnesota's interesting because Edwards is such a good player.
They're interesting, but the big team for me, the one that I am watching most this season, the Thunder, Oklahoma City Thunder, because they have
they're a good team.
An all-NBA guard in Shai Gilgeous, like a MVP, the 5th voting-wise MVP candidate last year.
Yep.
They're adding a guy who fits them perfectly with Chet Holmgren, who honestly, the odds currently are him at I think 3rd or 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. Yeah. That should be higher. Right. Because he probably will have a bigger impact than Wembanyama will this year.
Well, look, Wembanyama is going to get all this publicity because the feeling is that he is the future of the league.
And he is, because he blocked 3-pointers from Klay Thompson without trying.
And Golden State will be another interesting team. But this goes back to when LeBron first entered the league. Cleveland didn't do much the first 2-3 years. Okay. But LeBron was the focal point because he was the future of the league, So you saw a lot of LeBron. You'll see a lot of Spurs and Victor Wembanyama this year and next year because it is perceived that he is the future of the league, that at some point when San Antonio gets good, people will be tuning into games to see them in the Western Conference Final or in an NBA Finals because he happens to be out there. So there's going to be a lot invested in what he does. Any little thing he does, they'll do. They're playing a preseason game. They're sending out highlights. Every time he plays a preseason game or played a preseason game, because preseason's over now, there would be 4 to 5 highlights. Right? Like him getting a rebound. Okay? Him saving a ball and getting it to the corner for a 3. Three's missed. but he saved it.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one I saw where he made a steal, dribbled it between the legs of the defender, and then they went down, fed it to somebody else, missed the shot, but was fouled. Right? There are a lot of missed shots. Okay.
There's going to be a lot of missed shots this year, but it's so interesting because
But Holmgren is a guy, remember, didn't play last year.
No, he had a year. There was discussion they would play him towards the end of the season, and then it quite clearly became, let's just keep him out. We're not going to do much in the playoffs.
Right.
Let's just hold him out for the year.
Right.
And per all of the different discussion and rumors, the Thunder basically, after Shea got back from being with Canada and Giddy with Australia at the Summer World Cup, they were like, let's hammer down on how this is going to work. And Chet has looked really good this season. They've got a guy who finished second, I believe, in Rookie of the Year voting in Jalen Williams, the wing. They've got Shea, of course. You've got Josh Giddey, who looks really good. You've got Chet. You've got Lou Dort, who apparently is one of the best defenders in the NBA. Like, you've got players everywhere. And they are all young. Outside of Shea, they're all young. And even he's like 25 or whatever he is.
Right.
Imagine how the Clippers feel right now. If after this season, Kawhi and Paul George leave with no contract and they walk out of there, and the Clippers gave up Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to the Thunder, who could become a real problem. Because again, they still have about $1.5 billion picks remaining over the next 4 years. They've got like 60 picks in the next 10 drafts or whatever nuts number it is. They have like half the second round of the next few seasons. They are going to have ammunition for after this season to say, we're going to win now and go and get whoever they want to.
Right.
If someone comes available, say Paul George comes available somehow. Maybe he signs a contract and then becomes available by trade, or Kawhi. They could say, we'll take him. We'll give you 2 picks. Here you go. And that's nothing for them. They could do that with 10 players at this point.
I know Philadelphia feels they have the most intimidating crowds in sports. Listen to it. We're the loudest crowd, the most intimidating crowd in baseball. How Arizona in the fetal position last night won 5-1, I'll never know.
They were doing the wave in Arizona, and
I mean, how Arizona somehow overcame all that noise. As I tell everybody, it is a great atmosphere. Right? But if you think you're intimidating professional athletes,
oh yeah, Steve.
Right? I said, unless you're standing next to them, screaming, you're not like.
They don't care.
They don't really like. Okay, it's loud. Okay, it's fine.
Corbin Carroll does not care.
Right? It's like,
whoa, look at that, a hot dog flying. That's so cool. Doesn't matter.
Santa Claus, hot dogs, they're throwing them. All right. But I always love that. We're so intimidating. Then why did the Astros win 2 out of 3? Okay.
The world may never know, Steve.
Last year when they went in there. How did Arizona win last night? I mean, it's so intimidating. How did it happen? I have no idea. Now, tonight they'll be loud again tonight, which is great. Yeah. I love the atmosphere. Love it, love it, love it. And it's to see it and be a part of it must be absolutely incredible. But don't think you're intimidating the other team.
How dare you, Steve? How dare you say that to Philly fans?
I know. It's like, I sit there and go, guys, they're professional athletes.
They don't care.
It's like, it's all right. They're in the game for a reason.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.